So when people hear fundamentals in calisthenics, they know it's important, but they think it's only for beginners. And that's where everyone makes the mistake. The fundamentals are not just what you do at the start, it is what everything is built on. And you need to make sure you have perfect fundamentals throughout your whole way through. And what we're gonna do today is we're gonna build on those fundamentals. And it's not gonna be a workout that you're following, and it's not just one exercise. These fundamentals are a level that you're consistently building on throughout your whole journey. So we're gonna go through all this together. There's gonna be 10 fundamental levels. You're gonna find the correct form, the correct technique, but also the correct level that is specific to you. And you're gonna continue to build on that throughout your whole journey. So this is gonna be the most important video that you will watch, whether you're at the very start, 6 months into your journey, 18 months, 24 months, whatever it might be. Let's get into those 10 levels. So there's going to be 5 levels that are gonna be more strength foundation movements, and then there are gonna be 5 levels that are gonna be more skill foundation movements. And I wanna reiterate, every single one of you, regardless of where you're at, is going to have the capacity to do every single level. So there's going to be progressions for each of these levels. So sit tight, go through these throughout your own time, find the right form, find the right technique, find what strength you're at, and you are going to, as I said, you're gonna set up your whole journey. We'll start with level 1. Level 1, so we have a push-up here. So we know this is an absolute staple, and most of you, I'm sure, probably have been doing a shit ton of push-ups, but we're gonna make sure we're actually doing it correctly, and we're gonna find the progression that you're at, because you don't wanna just be doing push-ups for 25 reps, and you don't be doing push-ups with shit form either. So this is definitely very important. So from the get-go, we'll start with typical bodyweight push-ups, and we'll walk through some regressions and progressions from there. But in terms of the form, the biggest issue I see is people flaring. That is by far probably the most common thing. Please do not flare your elbows. Don't go excessively wide grip. You want to build up your push-ups on a 45-degree angle, meaning your elbows stay relatively tucked. And what that's going to do is just going to build up your chest and shoulders in the correct fashion. It's not putting weight through your joints, and it's going to transfer over to a lot of those harder skills like handstand push-ups, planche variations, all the rest of it. So please, 2 things I want to make sure you focus on: hips straight, elbows flare, and make sure you get full range of motion pretty much. So that is definitely 3 things. But if you tick off that, your push-ups are going to be absolutely flying. Just focus on those for sure. And then obviously in terms of the regression, and the first one, the very, very easiest one is gonna be from an elevated position. And the higher the elevation, the easier it is. But in terms of the form and the technique, absolutely nothing changes. So all you're doing is the exact same thing. You're gonna be pushing on a 45-degree angle, pressing back up. Hips stay straight, everything's nice and controlled. Full range of motion. You cannot fault that. And then obviously what you start to reduce the elevation slowly and slowly until you can do it off the floor. And an alternative is obviously also kneeling push-ups. So kneeling push-ups are definitely a very good alternative. We don't want to call them female push-ups either, because a lot of you may need to be doing this regardless if you are male or female, if you can't perform really good push-ups. So please get that form right and get that technique right. Probably get to a point where you're very comfortable with maybe 10 to 15 push-ups with perfect form. From there, you can start to think about working towards some more vertical pressing stuff. So this is where it definitely starts to get from a more chest focused movement to a shoulder focused movement. And in calisthenics, you need strong shoulders. Handstand push-ups, planches, all of those harder advanced push exercises are completely shoulder dominant. You want to start working toward those eventually. And the best way to start with your pike push-up progressions is to actually just get into a typical push-up position. So you can see here, I'm in a normal push-up position. My shoulders are over my hands and everything's nice and straight. What I'm doing from here now is actually getting into a triangle. So I'm not too piked, just getting into a triangle from there, coming onto my toes, and then from here, I'm shifting my weight forward while keeping my elbows tucked. So this is a half piked position. So it is quite difficult still. And to get the form right, the most important things you have to make sure you're doing, I've posted a lot of videos about the pike push-up form. You can watch that if you need to, because I go into a lot of detail there. But you just have to make sure your elbows stay tucked over your wrists. So making sure that you're shifting your weight forward and those elbows stay tucked. If they go out to the side or they shift backwards, you are not building up a vertical pressing movement pattern. You're building up different muscle groups. It's a completely different exercise. You have to make sure your elbows stay fixed and you shift your weight forward. And one of the best ways to make sure you're doing this correctly as well is to really keep your hips as high as you can. Shift your weight forward, as I said, but stay on your toes. If you can stay on your toes, it keeps the weight forward onto your shoulders. To progress this movement from that half pike position, all you have to do is literally just walk your feet slightly further forward. The more forward your feet are and the higher your hips get, the more weight gets placed on your shoulders. I would also recommend, you can also do this pike push-up, slightly wider hand position than you would with your normal push-ups, as it is going to build up a little bit of a better movement pattern specific to handstand push-ups. So you can go a touch wider than your normal typical shoulder width apart. And if you can master a pike push-up and you can get comfortable 10 reps, absolutely flying for sure, but then you can start progressing. Knee elevation, go to a water hip elevation, then you can start doing those wall handstand push-ups against the wall, chest to wall, definitely for sure. As you can see here, I want to really make sure that that with these fundamentals, you're ticking off most of the key areas. I don't want to information overload you guys. I want to make sure that you understand the most important criteria to then work through those progressions and find the right level for you. And that's what it should be about. Let's move to level 2. Level 2, guys. So what we just built up in level 1 was a horizontal push. Pretty self-explanatory. Level 2 is building up the horizontal pull. And a lot of people sleep on this exercise and they just go straight to pull up. Please don't do that. These will not only help with pull up, but it will teach you the correct shoulder retraction mechanics that is so important with calisthenics. Because what a lot of people do when they do their rows, they do their pull-ups, is they're not taking their shoulder blade through that full range of motion. And they're not creating a very healthy or a very strong shoulder joint. And that's when injuries start to occur. That's why we need these fundamentals done properly. So what you have to make sure you're doing with these inverted rows before you even start think about touching pull-ups is learning through that, obviously, the correct form. So what we have to make sure we're doing here is we're keeping our hips, keeping our hips completely straight. And as you can see, I've got a dead straight line from my heels, dead straight until pretty much the top of my head. From there, I'm pulling down the exact same thing on that 45-degree angle. So pulling down on the 45-degree angle, controlling it back down. And as you can see, everything is under tension. Complete tension. I've got my core brace, my glutes are very strong, and all the movement is happening is from my elbows pulling down and coming back up. And one of the most important things I want you guys to focus on is that shoulder retraction. You want to imagine that someone has a finger between your shoulder blades and you're trying to squeeze that person's finger as much as you can. I'll show you from the back. If I'm pulling here, see how my shoulder blades really squeeze. And it's like there's something in between my shoulder blades and I'm squeezing those together as hard as possible. You can really think about that engagement. At the start, you can overthink it for sure. And eventually it'll become an innate nature that you're just doing that consciously. So that's what you want to try and focus on doing. Everything nice and straight, dead hang, everything engaged. Pull on that 45-degree angle, squeeze your shoulder blades and come back down. It's always shoulders down, pull. Shoulders are down, pull back. In terms of the progressions and regressions, there's actually a lot more than you might think. The regressions are very easy, as you could probably tell just then. The higher you are on the row, the easier this is going to be in terms of more vertical. The more horizontal you go, the harder it's going to be, obviously. So slowly getting more and more horizontal until you're completely inverted. And from there, you can start to raise your feet up and go into a fully inverted, elevated position. And even there, you can start to add some weight onto your chest and really increase the amount of load and tension placed on your back. So there's a lot of progressions from here. Just don't completely cut out inverted rows. Really strong, important exercise. Helps a lot with your front lever pull-ups, tuck front lever pull-ups. There's so many progressions from this. Get that right. The next progression, the next levels will be absolutely fine as well. Level 3. So what we're doing at the moment is going to find our dip. So we're finding the strength in a dip position. There's going to be 2 kind of different variations that we work through. The first one is going to be finding a chair, anything that's about roughly knee height, to build up our tricep dip. So this is going to be the easier regressions, obviously. But what we want to make sure with this tricep dip is we're bringing our hips as close as we can to that bar, and then we're getting to that 90-degree position. You see how my elbows and shoulders, so my shoulder reaches that elbow at 90 degrees, and then I'm pressing back up. In terms of form and technique, you can't get this one too much wrong, as long as you're not flaring the elbows too much, or you're shifting back, or you're so far forward putting weight too much through your shoulders. So bring your hips as close as you can to where your hands actually are. Get to that 90-degree position, press back up. If that's too easy for you, if that's too hard for you, you can obviously do that knees bent. And I'm sure everyone has that capacity to do this. If it's still too hard for you, you just go not as deep. So there's ways to work through that. Just ensuring you're not going too deep in terms of over rotating your shoulder. Can put too much load through the shoulders a little bit, especially if you're not used to the movement. Make sure that core's nice and strong. And as I said, get to that 90-degree position. I'm sure most of you should be pretty confident with that. And what we can work toward now is definitely a harder movement. We're working toward not a tricep dip, but more of a chest dip. The thing is, it is a bit of a big jump between a tricep dip and a chest dip. So what you can use, entirely up to you if you do have it, is band. And what I'm going to do is first walk through the form and how you want to build up the dip specific to calisthenics. Because you see a lot of gym bros, when they're just doing shit tons of tips, they're just kind of doing it like this. And sure, that's okay. They might be keeping constant tension on their chest, but their core's not engaged and they're not taking the shoulders through a full range of motion, which is what we need to make sure we're doing. I promise you, you're probably doing the chest dip wrong. Please watch this and make sure you're doing it right. I'll show you, as I said, first with body weight, and we can talk about some regressions first. So making sure at the top of the movement, you are pressing your shoulders all the way down. And you can see how I raise higher. That's because my shoulders are depressed. A lot further down. And from this position here, you want to make sure you're actually, imagine your elbows are staying over your wrists, but you're folding in. See how I'm crunching my core? So you want to fold down. And what that's going to mean is you're creating a concave structure with your chest. What that means is it's folding inward. What a lot of people do is it folds outwards and their ribs flare. So you keep your core compressed and your ribs tucked in, and that is the movement. So you're folding down. It keeps your core engaged, keeps everything really strong, keeps your shoulders in a better position. So do not be doing the opposite. So that's convex, we call it, but it pretty much just means my ribs are flaring out. So what you have to do, core in, fold down. And see how my shoulders stay down at the top of the movement as well? So concave core, if that's confusing you. Compress the core, keep the ribs in, fold down, come back up. Fold down, come back up. Honestly, I promise you it is not easy. If you're struggling with that, this is where bands can come in handy. You get bands quite cheap online. I actually don't even have an affiliate link. Either way, probably should get one. Maybe I will at the time you're watching this video so you can suss that. Get your knee through here. If you're able to and you have the capacity to, it's really good to keep the feet completely straight. So if you're able to do that and you have the room, for sure, but nothing changes at all. Fold down, come back up. Core compressed, come back up. And you can see my elbows. My elbows don't shift backwards. They don't shift out to the side or flare. Everything stays directly over my wrist and it puts my shoulders in as strong as possible position. Make sure you get that chest dip right. You're gonna set up your whole calisthenics push journey, I promise. And then in terms of progressions, you can add weight. You can also allow for a little bit of a forward lean and you can start working a little bit toward planche dips, because we're actually increasing the forward lean, puts more load on the shoulders. But I do recommend, if you do have the ability to, adding a little bit of weight is okay, or you can start to get to a point where you're doing 10, 15 chest dips and then start focusing a little bit more on maybe some planche stuff or some vertical presses like handstand push-ups. But that's for another journey. So level 4, I think you could probably guess it. We've done a horizontal push, horizontal pull, then we did a vertical push, or kind of like a vertical downward push. Now we're doing a vertical pull, obviously a pull-up. So we all know pull-ups are important. We have to make sure that we're doing hollow body pull-ups. Same thing in terms of the dip. They were hollow body dips. Core is being compressed. Our shoulders are getting nice and strong. In this position, our core is always going to be engaged and we're building up our lats in isolation. So we're not just doing some constant tension bullshit, taking those lats through a full range of motion. And what a hollow body pull-up looks like, I'll show you with the band first. So we want to make sure pretty much that our core is compressed. So we're not flaring our ribs, the exact same thing. Core compressed. And you want to imagine that you're trying to almost bring your feet a little bit further forward. Not intentionally, but you're compressing your core and then you'll watch your feet go forward a little bit. So see this position here, bang. So my core is compressed, my glutes are nice and strong, then I'm in this position. In terms of the pull-up, just think about bringing your elbows forward. So a lot of the time when people do pull-ups, they think about drawing the elbows out to the side, which isn't wrong, but for what we're doing in calisthenics, it's not as specific as what we could be doing it. So you want to think your elbows are coming forward and then you chin over the bar. So what that means is I'm building up a much more hollow body position, which is going to transfer over to muscle ups and it's going to transfer over to front lever. So if you can get that right, even with a band, you're setting yourself up for sure. You're absolutely flying. So what I want to make sure you're doing is negative pull-ups. This is still quite difficult, but obviously jumping yourself up and controlling it down. The same movement pattern, the same compression, same elbows forward for about 4 to 5 seconds. For some of you, that still may be very difficult. So what you can do, I won't be able to do it here, so we can do leg assisted pull-ups if you don't have the band, obviously. So you can do leg assisted, obviously. So coming all the way down, chin over the bar, the exact same way, and just try and really be as subjectively light on your feet as you possibly can to build that strength. But you can see here, my elbows are forward. I'm still building up the same movement pattern. So learn how to do hollow body pull up. Build up the strength if you don't have it yet with either bands, slowly regress the bands down, or you can do leg assisted. You can also do negatives. There's a lot of alternatives. Get to a point where you can do body weight hollow body pull ups. The goal, I'm sure you probably know, is to get to 10 reps. If you can get to 10 clean hollow body pull ups, you're at intermediate level calisthenics and you can start doing some crazy skill stuff, muscle ups, going further into front levers, all the rest of it. But we don't want to stop there. As I said at the start of the video, you want to continue building up your fundamentals throughout the whole journey. So what we can do once we get to 10 hollow body pull up, we can start working towards some different variations. Yes, weighted pull ups, if that's something you want to do, but we can also, hopefully I don't neck myself here, we can also do side to side pull ups. So now we're starting to build up a little bit of unilateral strength. So you can see here, chin to the bar, coming back down. My movement pattern hasn't changed. I'm still doing everything hollow body, but I'm starting to increase the difficulty and place more weight on one side than the other. And that can also progress eventually to getting the opposite elbow a little bit more straight and a little bit more difficult. So more weight's getting placed on one side. And eventually that's going to work toward a really nice clean archer pull up. And as you can see, my elbow on that opposite side stays completely extended. So that's that kind of end progression of pull-ups, irrespective of working toward a one-arm pull-up, which we won't talk about, but that's something that you guys might be able to think about doing. But if you can build up that hollow body position and build up that lat strength with those vertical pulling, within obviously good form and everything like that, you'll skyrocket your strength for sure. Next one, level 5. The final, more strength-focused one, then we'll move into more skill-focused stuff as well. Level 5. So here we are, we're finding our raise position now. So this is so incredibly important because we're not only building up our core strength, not only building up that hip flexor, hip compression strength, which is so essential, we're also building up that grip strength. I'm sure you guys can imagine any bar work you're doing, any pull work you're doing, that grip strength is going to be the most important thing. Swear to God, my muscle, in terms of like my forearms are probably the biggest muscle group. And it's not for the reason you think. It's because I train calisthenics and do a lot of group work, I promise you. So, in terms of this, the very first progression for most of you will be obviously trying to build up a dead hang and having the capacity to raise with your knees. Do your best, like it doesn't have to be super high. Get to a point where you can raise up your knees as high as you possibly can. If you can build up that while not using momentum and swinging. So what we see a lot of the time is people doing this and they just use momentum. You're not building up fucking shit. Please make sure your hips, imagine you have like a rope pulling you from either side and your hips are staying completely fixed to that position. From there, then you're just raising your knees up and building up that position there. That is all it is. And if that is still too difficult for you, you're really lacking the grip strength to hold yourself up, I would be just doing lying leg raises for now. Build up your strength from the lying position. Once you get stronger at your inverted rows, you're getting stronger at your pull-up, those dead hangs will become pretty important. But please try this if you have the capacity to do it. From there, we want to start thinking about increasing the lever. This is a concept that happens a lot in calisthenics. By increasing the lever, it just means the exercise is getting harder because the lever is getting longer, so there's going to be more weight placed on the muscle that's working. So all I'm going to be doing now is thinking about trying to get my knees straighter. It's literally it. Same form, hips nice and straight, but see now my knees are getting a little bit straighter. So I'm straightening as much as I can, and eventually I'll try to get to a point where I can keep my knees completely extended, my toes completely pointed, and get into that like L-sit position. So that nice lateral position. From there, you can come up even more as high as you want. What I want to reiterate is you're not actually doing the toe taps. So a lot of people think that they need to progress this on and start doing these, but it's actually working different muscle groups. You're starting to work more of your lat. It takes attention away from your core. These hanging raises, we're trying to build up our core and our hip flexor compression. So you want to keep your hips directly straight on that line and only focus on just the dead hang and raising your feet up as high as you can with your core. So don't get the lats firing, at least for this position and this movement. We're trying to focus on different muscle groups. Work that core, work the hip flexor compression. The lats will start getting worked in other areas, don't stress. So level 6, now we're working on to the final 5 skills. So this is gonna be moving from the foundational strength focus exercises to the foundational skill focus exercises. And with these skill focus ones, you're just still building up strength. Not that you're not building up strength, but they're more skill focused stuff because they're very technical and they're working towards some of those more harder advanced skills. So these are gonna be more skill focused stuff. What I also wanna say, if you guys need some structure in your training, you wanna make sure you're actually working through these progressions as best as you possibly can. It is so important to make sure you're actually following a routine and a structure that's specific to you and your level of strength. And obviously getting guidance and feedback throughout that journey helps so much from a technique perspective too. I jump in my calisthenics community. You can get extra coaching there if you do need it as well. There's structured plans in there that will absolutely skyrocket your strength. All the members are seeing insane results. Check it out, trust me. Anyway, level 6. So what we have here, the very first one, very easy exercise. And I can almost guarantee that you would have done this at some stage, at like PE in school or whatever it might be. But I can almost guarantee that no one's actually taught you how to do it properly. So what you want to make sure you're doing is your elbow is going to be over your shoulders. Place your hands down like this. And then from here, I'm sure you guys probably know this part is your hips nice and straight. Also want to make sure you're doing is that you're tucking in your pelvis. So this is what we call PPT, the posterior pelvic tilt. So tuck in your pelvis. And then from this position there, squeeze the glutes. But then you want to imagine that you're pushing your elbows into the ground. And what that's doing is it's creating scapular protraction. You can see that position here, how my shoulders go all the way forward. So this sets the benchmark for everything you're doing from a push perspective in calisthenics. And if you can get this movement right in terms of pelvic positioning and scapular protraction, it's meaning shoulders forward, you're absolutely flying. Your strength's gonna absolutely skyrocket from every perspective because you understand the engagement. You can get this right, hold that for like 30 seconds. Like honestly, I'm struggling here. My core's engaged, everything's firing. So you can hold this for 30 seconds and work toward that. You've set yourself up and it will set you up for these later skills as well. Level 7, and you cannot do this level until you get that level 6 right. So important, so incredibly important because it teaches on the exact same thing and it branches on beyond that. So what we're doing here is we're finding our planche journey. So the very, very first thing I want you guys to learn, and I'm not gonna go into crazy detail on this because I could be talking about it for 10 minutes. I'll go through the same key criteria that we need to go through. So all we have to be doing is hands slightly wider than shoulder width, very slightly wider than shoulder width, thumbs facing forward, hands on a 45-degree angle. The wrists are going to be in the most mobile but also strong position in this position for that planche. So find that position there. And then for now, I want you to just get into a push-up. Start in a push-up position. Now I want you to think about the exact same thing we just did before. PPT, posterior pelvic tilt, tuck the pelvis in, squeeze the glutes. So find that position there. So tucking in the pelvis and squeezing that there. You can also see there's a nice straight line forming from my heels and my shoulders. You get a nice straight line. So get that PPT happening. Now, exact same thing, the scap protraction. Push down. Imagine you're trying to push down into the earth and you're pushing the ground away from you. So you can see a really nice position for me now. Got nice roundness of my upper back. My My glutes are nice and down. I'm kind of humping the air a little bit. Now from there, I'm not changing this position. Everything is going to be staying the exact same. All I'm doing is leaning further forward. Bang. And that's literally it. That's the planche lean. And then obviously in terms of the progression, you're just going to be leaning slightly further forward based on your level of strength. But that's the position you want to try and find. Locked out elbows, shoulders push forward, hips nice and down, sucking in those glutes. And that's all it really is. We can go into so much engagement cues. If you can get that right and achieve that nice upper rounded position, hips nice and low, you're set. There's a lot of progressions we can work through. It might take you a couple of years to get to a full planche. Completely fair enough. But something I want you guys to work on throughout this fundamental level, and I'm sure some of you could definitely do it, is working toward a tuck planche. So within a tuck planche, there's a few progressions. So one of the best ones is just working into the exact same in terms of upper back engagement, hips in line with shoulders, but drive your knees into your chest as much as you can, and then keep your feet on the floor. If this is quite strong for you, you can raise one foot up, and you might be able to raise another one and get into a tuck planche position. See how you go with that. Tuck planche is definitely difficult. Just making sure that you're trying to achieve as much scapular retraction as you can. The stronger you get with that, the better engagement you can get with that. You're setting yourself up. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but master the planche lean. It should be an exercise that all of you do throughout most of your journey. Even me now, I'm still doing planche leans and I can do a full planche. Not that I'm excessively doing it all the time, but it's still a part of my engagement journey to really continue to build up that scap retraction and that understanding of the movement. Good luck with this one, stuff. Level 8. So you've done really well so far, guys. Continue going on your journey. So now we're starting building up a little bit more of a balance component with these skills now. I'm gonna build up a lot of wrist strength, a lot of core compression strength. But as I said, a lot of this stuff is a lot of balance components. So what we're doing here now is we're building up a little bit of a crow pose. And a crow pose is easy for some and harder for others. And that just depends on your anatomy. Throughout this whole journey, you're gonna find some skills just so easy for you and you pick it up naturally. And there's some things that people say are so easy online, your friend may pick it up pretty much immediately, but you're gonna struggle. And that's all a part of the journey. Some things are shit, some things are good. I've felt that the whole way through. So what I want you guys to do with this crow pose is you're placing your hands on the outside. You can do forward, you can do out the outside, you can do back even if you wanted to. I find this the easiest. And then from this position here, you're gonna tuck your elbows down. So think about that movement here. And all you're gonna be doing is you're gonna get the top of your elbow on the inside of your knee. So get nice and high, hips are gonna raise, drop the elbow down like this, and then get your knee on the inside of your knee on the top of your elbow. And then from here, you wanna lean forward. Find a bit of a forward lean, get a bit of a feel for it. You might feel some balance forward and back. Make sure your hips stay nice and high, and then maybe take one foot off, get a bit of a feel for it. You will need to lean a little bit further forward than you think, and then see if you can lift maybe a bit of a tap. See if you can just find some positioning in terms of that with the other foot, and maybe you might be able to raise both off and hold that position for a little bit. What I want to make sure you're doing to achieve this is, yes, you're trying to think about leaning further forward. Don't think about leaning down. That's what most people get wrong. But you also really have to tense your groin. So my groin and my knees are really tensing into my elbows. So that's what creates the core compression that you need. So you really got to make sure that you're really tensing your elbows, raising up through there, leaning further forward, not dropping, leaning forward, and then finding that position. Eventually, I promise you'll get it. If you're struggling, just go with one foot. And then just hold that for 10 seconds and slowly build up your capacity to be able to do that full that full crow pose. Good luck. Let's move on to that next level. Oh, level 9, second last one. This is an exercise that has a bit of a stigma in calisthenics for some reason. And I honestly think it is one of the most important exercises to really build up the correct pushing mechanics under balance. And what this skill is an elbow lever. And I think the reason why it has such a stigma is because a lot of people post it online kind of claiming that they're like elite at calisthenics. But I promise you, learn this skill, get really, really strong and confident at it. You have set yourself up, promise you. All right, so what I want you guys to start with is a flat frog. And what this is gonna do is just teach the correct elbow lever mechanics. So what you want to try and do, some people may struggle with this position just based on their anatomy, but you want to have your elbow find your, it's actually called an ASIS, so anterior superior iliac spine. Apologies for the ridiculous name, but you want to find that prominent bone that you'll feel that there. Then you want to go just on the inside of that. So that's where your elbows hide. And then from there, hands out to the side. You can go backwards as well. Some people struggle with it. I find hands out to the side better. And that is the position you want to start with. So it feels a little bit awkward getting into it, but then get to that position there. So my knees are still on the ground. You can see here, finding a nice position, and that's what I'm trying to hold. Don't drop your shoulders too much. Keep your shoulders in the line with your elbows so they're nice and forward. From here, lean a little bit further forward and see if you can raise your knees up and find that balance. If you're struggling, keep one on the ground, raise, try and find it, see if you can lift off and hold that position. Some of you may get it naturally, some may not, and that's fine. Keep working on it. From there, the next progression that you want to work toward is a straddled elbow lever. And how to start that is literally just get in the same position. Start here, nice and straddled. Get your elbow on the exact same position, the inside of that prominent bone. And then the only thing you really should be thinking about is shoulders high and then shifting your elbows forward. See this position? That is gonna dictate whether you get into this or not. So you have to make sure that your elbows come forward. If they don't come forward, you cannot lift your legs up. So you'll be stuck like this forever. I see it all the time. So lean forward, and watch what happens. My weight starts to balance forward and back, and I'm able to lift. That is the only way you're able to do an elbow lever. And I promise you, for those who can't do an elbow lever, that is why you can't do it. So you may need to continue building up your strength to get stronger to lengthen those elbows forward, but keep working on it. Then from there, the final progression is an elbow lever. So legs completely straight, hips nice and straight, and achieving that nice natural line. If you can find that position, you're great. I'll teach you a little bit of a hack that might help you just getting into that elbow lever. So if you can find anything that's raised, anything even higher than that, you can do this off a bed or a chair, something that raised a little bit. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna help you get into the position. And you can do this in a straddle, you can do this in a normal elbow lever, but find that same position, elbows tucked in the inside of your spine, and then lean further forward. And you'll find you can get into the position a whole lot easier because the floor is not limiting the range of motion. So you can find the position a little bit earlier, maybe keep your legs down a little bit, try and lean further forward, raise the legs, try it in a normal actual elbow lever as well. So that can really help you find the balance and find the positioning as something you can hack with. Talking about finding the position and finding the balance, this level 10 is, I don't want to say the most important, but it brings everything together in calisthenics. Let's move into that final level. Level 10. So what we're building here is we're finding your level with a handstand. And I'm not just saying we're just gonna start doing handstand attempts and start learning the balance. You're gonna start learning the engagement and the alignment for the handstand, because this sets the tone for absolutely everything. And the first thing you're gonna do is not actually go to a wall, not doing anything. We're gonna be in a piked position. So I want you guys to find, obviously the floor, but find that same vertical press position that we had at level 1. Get into a piked position. And what I want you guys to do is walk your feet as high as you possibly can and try and get your hips as high as you can. But from there, I want you to think about pressing into the ground as much as you possibly can. So imagine you're pressing into the ground and raising up your shoulders as much as possible. Imagine you're trying to get your shoulders to touch your ears and really kind of like excessively forcefully contract and push the ground down as much as you possibly can. And what that's doing is it's going to engage your core, but also engage those shrug position to achieve a really nice, strong handstand position, and also just a strong pushing position for everything you do in calisthenics. Get stronger at that pike position. Raise the feet up. Try that in an elevated position. And when you're doing it in an elevated position, try and see if you can get your hips directly over your hands and just excessively like exaggerate how much you're pushing into the ground. It's gonna really build up those shoulder stabilizers and those shoulder elevators so much. Once you're confident with that, you're really strong at that, I promise you, wall handstands are gonna be so much easier. You're gonna be so much more confident and competent being able to do that. So what I want you to do now is to find a wall. Make sure it's a little bit more sturdy and safer than what I'm doing. I'm experienced, I'm a professional, so I can do it like this. And also one thing, I don't know if you guys also live near a beach. I'm currently in Thailand, so I'm a little bit fortunate, but also unfortunate in the same sense. Do not do handstands off sand. You don't want to be doing handstands off any soft surface. Even if you're doing it off like a mat, it's not good. It's really shit. You want a hard surface. You want to have concrete. You want to have pavement. You want to have a wooden surface, something that's very concrete, because you want to be pressing into the surface as much as possible. If it's spongy, your balance is thrown off and it's so much harder. So do as I say, not as I do for this at the moment. Don't do it off sand. But you can see here, so what I want you guys to get confident at doing is just kicking your legs up. Roll your legs into the wall. If you're really scared and apprehensive about this, you can place a pillow underneath you. You can get someone to help you throw your legs up and get confidence that way. That's something I get a lot of clients do. Or just find the confidence to just really throw your legs over and find the wall and then get into that position. And then from there, you want to imagine that you're pressing down as much as you can, lift into the wall and get super high. And then from here, you're just finding the best alignment you possibly can for 30 seconds. The only really 2 things I want you to focus on, because we can go into this for another 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes about handstand engagement. 2 things I want you to focus on. We'll say 3. Imagine you're trying to put a rope is pulling your toes up. So your toes are getting pulled all the way up. So what that's going to do is it's going to get your knees extended. Your toes are going to come all the way high. You're going to lift up and there's a rope pulling you all the way. And then you're also pushing the ground down as much as possible. So it's like you're getting separated at both ends. That's the position you want to get into. It's going to get all your joints in alignment and sucking your core. So imagine that is the handstand position. That's what you want to try and do. suck in your core, get really strong with the core, push the hands down. If you have poor mobility, it may not look exactly like that. And that's totally fine. We can go into that about another video, but find that position and you're gonna set yourself up. 3 alignment things you have to be focusing on. Imagine that pole is pushing you down. Sorry, the rope is pulling you up and pushing you down. Core engage. From there, what you wanna make sure you're doing is you're actually building up the capacity to being upside down. Learning how to be upside down and getting confident being upside down takes time, but it takes repetition as well. Once you're at that level, you can start thinking about doing some balancing attempts there, but you wanna be using that wall. And you're gonna be doing a combination of both back to wall and stomach to wall. That's gonna be where you're at. So using a combination of those as it's building up both the capacity of overbalancing and underbalancing, using your palms and using your fingers. If you can start getting those right, you start getting better and more confident in that. You start getting the odd holds, getting confident. Then you get to a point where you can start doing some freestanding attempts. And this is gonna be a handstand balancing video. I've got a video here if you wanna learn how to unlock the handstand as rapidly and efficiently as possible. Go into a lot of detail there about how I've got clients get it in the first month, how I've got it myself in 1 month of obsessed training. And you guys can get it very quickly if you are also obsessed and wanna try and get it. Either way, I really hope you got a lot out of the last 10 levels. I really do think you should be going back over this video and reworking through those levels as you start to build strength and just making sure that you're building the right engagement, the right form, and the right technique to continue building strength in calisthenics. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, and pushing those advanced levels, this is a very important video. Hope you got a lot out of it. As I said, you can jump in my calisthenics community, you can get coaching offerings from me, or you can watch the rest of my videos and continue smashing your training. Good luck, guys.